up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 30.
Hell yeah, 30 today.
We were just saying, how many do we have left in the year?
We have 22 left because we do one a week. So that'd be 52 weeks, right? In a year? Yeah. So 52 episodes by the end of the year.
Had we missed one? I think we missed one when I was sick once at least.
Yeah, I think we did miss one.
Maybe,
actually.
but anyway, it's still exciting. 30 episodes is a lot. And we celebrate how many episodes we do at the beginning of every one now.
I know. We always act so surprised that we're like still sitting here doing this.
I know. It's just so much fun.
No, we have been enjoying it thoroughly. And today we're super excited to be talking about a very interesting topic dear to me. Yeah, a very topic for sure. And that is the NASA moon landing conspiracy theories. There's multiple theories.
Yes.
But talking about the moon landing hoax, or the fact that the moon landing may have never fucking happened.
And some of you may have remembered a video that Josh and I did, I think like 2 years ago on this. And we figured, that was like one of the first videos Josh was ever in on YouTube.
It was definitely one of the conspiracy theory videos we were in together.
Yep. I think it was the first conspiracy theory video we did together. And yeah, it'll be really interesting to kind of look at it again. We can go more in depth. There's a lot of stuff we missed. And, you can only fit so much into a YouTube video. So we were like, let's make this into a podcast.
Absolutely. It's well deserving of a podcast. I will say that, because there is a lot to this. There's a lot of different angles and a lot of just things that will make you think about, especially think about NASA a little bit deeper. But obviously, before we get started, we just want to do a couple things real quick. Shout out to Bilegal Meds for the premium CBD products, helping us get through the day, the week. Kendall's been doing a lot better pain-wise a little bit, right, this week? Or
yeah. I mean, it's up and down. It depends on the day. But CBD makes a big difference. It definitely makes it more manageable. Absolutely.
So if you're interested in anything like that, you can go to bilegalmeds.com, get 20% off your order using code MILEHIGHER. So definitely check that out. They've got CBD vape pens on there, which we'll show you guys next week. But
yeah, next week.
Yeah.
You're going to get some?
Yeah, we're going to get some.
Ooh, I want some.
So not only that, but we also love Monk oil diffuser pens, right?
Yes, we do.
Both of us use them every day just to help us sort of relieve some of that anxiety and stress, and just honestly, some of them just help you feel better. I feel like there's something real to essential oils, and I don't know, maybe we can do an episode one day about like natural remedies. I think would be kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like talking about like essential oils and things like that.
We did a lot with essential oils this weekend. I've used essential oils a ton this weekend for some reason. I used them on Josh this weekend.
Yeah,
when
you did.
He had a migraine.
Me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did. Well, I tried to do raindrop therapy, which obviously I'm not like
whatever you
to do
did
any types of
though.
therapy, but it's my husband, so I can do it. It's just like dripping different types of oils over and over again on your feet, because the pads of your feet absorb essential oils. It's really interesting, but it totally helped him. The peppermint oil you put on your temples when you have a migraine or on the nape of your neck.
It really does help. If you've never tried it, next time you get a headache, try to find some peppermint oil or buy some, and just put it on your temples, and I swear it works.
Monk
magic.
should make a headache blend. Why don't they have that? I'm going to hit him up and be like, yo, Kendall Ray's got an idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But if you guys are interested in Monk products, there's a link in the description for 10% off your order. Definitely check them out if you haven't already. But we also want to thank everybody out there that's listening, watching, for subscribing and just being an awesome support system for us. It's been somewhat of a difficult time for us. We've just been dealing with a lot, just personally and, health wise. I'm actually battling a cold today. So if I sniffle a little bit, don't crucify me. But I'm feeling a little bit better today. But we just want to thank you guys. And also I wanted to mention, we haven't mentioned this yet, but we have a Twitter now. So if you're looking for updates on the podcast, as things go down the road, there'll be a lot more Twitter postage, because, once we start bringing on guests, things like that, there'll be a little bit more to announce, I think, going on in the future. So definitely check out our Twitter. It's at MileHighPod. But today's Patreon question comes from Rachel, and she said, "Hey, Josh and Kendall, Scottish fan here. And my question is..."
that a Scottish accent?
No, that was bad. She's probably like cringing. Like,
wait, before we do this, I just want to say really quick, we have to address the audio from the last podcast before we forget.
Yes.
Sorry, we need to say this.
Yeah, so last week was a bit of a shit show.
Mercury retrogrades really, really sucked for us this time. Like, so many things have gone wrong. Oh my God.
So starting off, the audio, for whatever reason, there's this weird crackly pop sound
This is
throughout
on the
the
Oak
whole
Island
episode.
podcast.
Yeah, on last week's episode. So sorry guys if that annoyed the fuck out of you, because it annoyed me when when I was like editing and stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is awful. So I feel bad. So hopefully the audio is much better today. I made
it
some
wasn't
tweaks.
anything that we could fix.
No,
anyway,
it just,
so just let you guys know.
I don't even know what the problem was.
Yeah.
It was literally just like Mercury retrograde, like hitting the
do you
computer.
think it could happen again this time?
No, I already tested it a couple times.
Let's hope. All right.
Yes, let's hope.
Anyway, sorry. Back to Rachel.
But her question was, with technology becoming an important thing in our daily lives, do you think that it is doing more harm than good? Technology taking over our lives, is that a good thing or a bad thing, basically?
I don't know. I'm mixed on that, obviously, because there's so many good things about technology and modern medicine and space travel.
Sure.
And, just so many things. But, it's a double-edged sword.
Right. Well, do you think that, like,
problems?
Right, double-edged sword is good because it is definitely helpful in our lives and just in a lot of different ways. But at the same time, it's like maybe that's for a reason. Like if you believe in a deeper conspiracy of control and things going on, you would think that maybe whoever's in charge of this is like using it to further divide us, make us easier to control, brainwash, things like that. Because are we losing that human connection?
But it also brings us closer together. Like you can make the argument completely opposite too, that it allows us to connect. Without the internet and technology, we wouldn't be sharing all this information with people, So at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily a tool to separate us or divide us as much as it can be used to bring us together and keep communication. It made the world a lot smaller.
Yeah.
It made us be able to communicate with people. This person is from Scotland, right? That's so cool. Like, we wouldn't be able to do that without
technology. You wouldn't be able to like hear us. Like,
yeah, you'd have to like come see us at a live show in Scotland or something.
Seriously though, no, that's a great point. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like technology is a thing, not like a person, and it, it's all about intention. Like, what is your intention with this tool called technology? You can use it for good or evil. It's same thing with anything out there. Like, you can literally use it for good, or you can use it for your own,
like the yin yang.
gain.
It's just like.
Right.
Balance. There's always going to be good and bad.
Is there a risk of bad people taking technology and using it against us? Hell yeah. So
yes,
we got to be careful.
There is a huge risk. And it's really scary to think about for sure. Or the government using it to brainwash us, distract us what's going on from the rest of the world. That's what the rest of her question says. Totally. Definitely to distract us, because you go to Twitter and doesn't it blow your mind when if you look anywhere else for your news, about some crazy shit that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And then it's like Kim Kardashian or I don't know, just something. Normally the top trends, unless a huge event happened in America, are just like fluff or about Trump. Like it's obviously so controlled. Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
I really think it's not about trending anymore. It's about what they want to be trending. I don't think, because I've seen things get straight removed from the trending that were actually trending.
Well, it's just like, I mean, bottom line, even with the whole Alex Jones thing, it's the same kind of thing, like they have the ability to control, and like people say like, well, things like Facebook and, YouTube are private corporations, but at the same time, it's like the corporations are also really entrenched into the government political system. So is it really any different than the government censoring or removing stuff? So I mean, obviously this is a very extreme case, because like there's a line, and if you cross that line in this society, then as a people, as a population, which if you look at the population versus the people crossing the line, there's a big difference. There's a lot more people here versus here,
right?
So you got to come back to the population kind of thing. If you cross the line, got to bring it back or stay around that line, or don't go too far is what I'm trying to say. Like
Alex Jones did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll save it.
Okay. But this leads us into the first topic I wanted to talk about, and this is actually pretty fucking scary. Someone just recently on August 4th used a drone to try to assassinate Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. While he was giving a speech, he was allegedly someone attempted assassination on him.
Jeez.
And it wasn't a gunman. It was a pair of explosive carrying drones.
Why was this not on the Twitter
Dude,
trends?
I know.
Sorry.
I know.
The Twitter trends. Why?
I don't know, dude.
It's
This seems like
bizarre.
some pretty fucking
Serious
news
shit.
we need to know about.
I think a lot of people would be like, wow, there was a drone assassination? I had no idea. Venezuela is so fucked up right now. I feel so bad for the people that live there, dude.
Seriously,
it's so
it's
messed
such
up.
a mess there.
It's such a mess.
But both of the drones exploded, and Maduro escaped unscathed, but the attack injured 7 soldiers.
Damn.
This is the first known drone assassination attempt on a president.
Wow.
Honestly, I'm surprised like this hasn't happened already, or like, you know,
Yeah,
somebody
me
hasn't
too.
attempted to kill somebody with a drone. Like,
I know. That's when I first heard of drones or saw you get a drone and kind of realized what they do. I was like, aren't people going to use these in like bad ways, like
Seriously,
spying or
yeah.
assassinating or dropping? I mean, someone could fly over a school playground and like drop something. It's like pretty scary.
and they're really easy to get because the drones that they use are only $5,000 a piece.
Wow.
They basically got the drones.
Oh,
and
they
then
used
they
multiple drones.
strapped a kilogram of C4 to the bottom.
What's that?
An explosive, a plastic explosive.
Oh my gosh.
Underneath it, they just strapped it to the bottom. And this was like a pretty big
Jeez.
drone, but not like my size drone, like way bigger than my drone.
Mhm.
But it was only $5,000. You can order it online. So these guys ordered it and then strapped the explosive and then flew it at the guy.
Oh my god.
And those things fly fast, so it'd be
Yeah.
fairly difficult to like
He's
shoot
lucky
that out of the
he,
air.
like lived. That's crazy.
So, yeah, there's 6 people that were arrested for the alleged involvement in the assassination attempt. And they're calling them terrorists and hired killers. But very interesting. I mean, this is going to be, drones is going to be an interesting topic going forward, I think. And
Did they say it says they think that Colombia and the U.S. were responsible for this attack?
that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's
I don't know if there's any
juicy.
truth to that, but that is a pretty bold
Colombia
claim.
and the U.S.
What if we were trying to do that? What if we're trying
I
to
would
like
be shocked.
pull them out of power so that we can, you know, put who we want in power there and kind of mold it
Yeah.
into what we want.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, I can't say, but
Well, he's not such a good.
I know this guy in charge is terrible. Like
Yeah.
he needs to go. So
Interesting. Wow.
yeah, I thought that was very interesting. There was another attack in at the Abu Dhabi International Airport with an armed drone.
Interesting. It says
So
it
it's-
does say that the U.S. National Security Advisor denied it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. John
But
Bolton.
obviously they're gonna fucking lie. Like they're not gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. You caught us." Whoops.
So yeah, no, I thought that was super interesting. So was that guy that like took the plane this week.
Oh
Like that
yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for a
Sure.
second?
I mean, that's just
for a
nuts.
second.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't see this guy, I believe he was just a mechanic
Yeah.
that worked
29-year-old
at the
dude.
Seattle airport, and he took a plane. Thank God that had no one in it and no
Took off
crew or
and- yeah.
anything, and fucking took off.
Unauthorized.
And then went on this crazy trip. He was like flying up and flying down. He almost went into a lake, and then he pulled up at the last second.
It was
And
wild.
he was on a suicide mission, they think.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably didn't think he was going to land that. He didn't have the expertise to land it.
Yeah, no.
So even if he changed his mind up there, he's fucked. Like, there's nothing he can
It's
do
going to be difficult to survive that.
unless you like somehow landed it. But yeah, I guess that's just the what they're assuming is that's what he was doing.
That's crazy. No, you should definitely watch the footage of it. Somebody filmed him flying around doing the
Yeah.
crazy maneuvers.
And it
It's
finally crashed near this
in the
island.
forest, I think. Yeah.
But it was
Crazy,
pretty
though.
wild because it definitely makes you think about airport security and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a little fucking
Because they do
scary.
like open up the cockpits like when you're getting off the plane. Like, what if somebody like charged in there, slammed the door, and then took off? You know?
Oh my god, that'd be crazy.
Have you ever seen that? Like exiting a plane, they have like the pilot sometimes just standing in front of like the cockpit door.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not anybody, and it's just like the stewardess, like because the plane's on, they leave it on, they keep that shit running. So like you could dive in there, shut the door,
What?
and take off. Like I think
feel like
the
it's
security's a
harder than
little
that.
lax there. Should have like a biometric door.
But
like,
this was no one was in the plane. No one was like.
that's true. It could have just been sitting there.
I don't
chilling.
even think it was turned on or anything. Like he's a
Right.
mechanic, so
He did. I
knew
think he
how
did
to turn
power
it
it
on.
up, and
He
knew
probably
how
has
to-
watched people turn them on too.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
You think he planned it, or he just randomly was like, "I'm going to take this airplane"?
I don't know, man. That's wild. That's a wild
Wow.
way to to end it, man.
Bless
Seriously.
his soul. It's sad, you know. It's
Yeah,
a weird way to do
it
it,
is.
and it's kind of selfish because it did waste a ton of money and resources and could have really injured people. But, you know, suicide sucks and depression sucks. So,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I have sympathy for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
So
right,
the
one
other
more
thing,
little thing.
Yep, one more little thing, and
Juicy
this kind
tidbit.
of juicy. It's a very juicy tidbit, and
Great,
actually has
I
to do
need
with
it.
NASA. So there's this treasure hunter who's been exploring the depths of the Bermuda Triangle using a secret map made by NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper, who made in space and made a mysterious discovery which he claims may prove the region was visited by aliens. So this treasure hunter, Daryl Miklos, has been investigating more than 100 magnetic anomalies using maps created in the 1960s by his friend and famed NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper, to locate shipwrecks in the Caribbean. This is real.
Yeah, I know all about Bermuda Triangle. I did a video on it.
But these maps that astronaut Cooper made.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who astronaut Cooper is, he paved the way for the first moon landing by piloting the Mercury Atlas 9 Phase 7 spacecraft around the Earth 22 times in 1963. He was also the first American to sleep in space and first to fly twice. So he orbited the Earth 22 times. And while he was up there, the technology that he had allowed him to scan for magnetic anomalies, and a ton of them are under the ocean. And
Wow.
he pinpointed them on a map. And now this guy, his friend, Daryl Miklos, is looking for him, actually. And they found this
Interesting.
bizarre fucking thing, man. It's basically, so the footage that he has released they have a docuseries, actually. It's called Cooper's Treasure on Discovery Channel. But the footage shows him discovering a bizarre object 300 feet below the surface. And this thing is very bizarre looking. It doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't look like a ship to me. But here's what he had to say about it. So he said, "We were doing a scene where I was sitting in a 2-man submersible. We were out in the Bahamas and we were on an English shipwreck trail, somehow related to Sir Francis Drake. I was trying to identify shipwreck material based on one of the anomaly readings on Gordon's charts when I noticed something that stuck out, that shocked me. It was a formation unlike anything I've ever seen related to shipwreck material. It was too big for that. It was also something that was so completely different from anything that I've ever seen that was made by nature. It's almost like there were 5 arms coming out of a steep wall cliff, and each one of these is the size of a gun on a battleship. They're
Whoa.
enormous, and there's 5 and 5 over there, 15 in total. There's identical formations in 3 different areas, and they don't look nature-made. They don't look man-made. Certainly nothing I've ever seen based on my experience, and I have years of experience at doing this. We've identified multiple different types of shipwreck material. This doesn't match or look anything like that." So there's not a ton of great pictures. There's a couple, and then there's some footage, but it is very odd looking. It almost does look like a ship of some sort. So they're basically thinking that, you know, if it's not anything man-made or you know, naturally made, that perhaps it is something out of this world, extraterrestrial possibly, because it's very unusual. Or it could just be like a base. Maybe they just like found a base at the bottom, or
That's
an old
wild.
base or something.
So are they going to be able to find it? Or like,
So yeah, they're going to keep diving on it and try to figure out what it is.
wow.
So it's just interesting
Need to keep an
because
eye on that.
yeah, because there's a lot of these magnetic anomalies at the bottom of the ocean, and I wonder sometimes.
There could totally be a crashed alien spacecraft.
Dude, seriously, like
Underwater.
maybe there is.
It would make sense. I mean, most of the planet is water, so if they were going to crash anywhere, it's a good
Maybe
chance
there
it'd be
is,
in
like-
the ocean.
I mean, as we're finding out more and more, like we're uncovering like ancient artifacts and like
So cool.
different archaeological finds that are like keep pushing like our history back farther and farther.
Yeah.
So, dude, who knows? For all we know, there could have been alien visitors here at one time, or even a civilization here on this planet long, long ago, and maybe we're starting to find their stuff. So it's very interesting. I don't know. I want to see what happens with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I just want to see what happens with that, dude. Oh my God. Can you imagine?
It's
It'd
gonna.
be so cool.
I know.
I feel like we're on the brink of a really big discovery like this, like something like that.
I hope so. I hope we're at a brink of finding something big.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here we go.
Did NASA fake the moon landing?
That's the real question that you may be able to answer at the end of this episode, because we're going to dive into all of the evidence that people that believe that the moon landings never happened or were faked in any way, shape, or form say, as well as what science says and sort of what NASA says to a lot of these claims. So, the very first moon landing on the historic day of July 20th, 1969, a reported audience of 500 million people, which at the time was the largest ever to tuned in to watch the Apollo 11 astronaut Neil Armstrong land on the moon and deliver his famous line.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There you go.
Do you think he came up with that, or if they like told him to say that? They'd be like, that would be a great TV moment.
Well, there's like controversy about what he actually says in that, like,
Oh, there is. Yeah, I've heard about that.
because he later on he says like it's for a man, not for man. Like, it's very minute, like, difference, but
Yeah.
that
Can we just think about for a second what this would have been like as a human? Think about what it was like before we went to the moon. Like, none of us, well, I guess some of us out there, if we have some like listeners that are like my grandparents' age, because they, remember before that. Or I guess my dad. too,
1969,
yeah.
so like your dad was
That's
a
not
young
even, I always
kid.
think it's so long ago. It's not that long ago. But can you imagine, like, obviously you tune in, like, I can't believe it wasn't more than 500 million people. Everyone should have been tuned in to watch the moon landing. Can you imagine how exciting that would be?
Yeah, seriously.
The
that'd be fucking so
Yeah.
exciting now. Like,
It's the first place we've ever gone to outside of the planet. That's pretty interesting shit right there.
and actually like landed on it with our own 2 feet.
Yeah, imagine how exciting that would be.
That's craziness. Oh, I know. That'd be like Super Bowl times a million. Like, to see somebody land on another
Yeah, just bizarre.
rock spinning through, like, that's crazy. Like,
So can we talk about the live streaming element of this for a second?
Yeah,
I'm very
okay,
interested
sure.
in this. So it's very weird to me. Maybe I just don't understand technology very well, but for 1969, how were they live streaming from the moon back to TV when my live streaming on YouTube barely works and it's 2018? I'm just saying, like, it's a little weird that it worked so well.
I know, it really is, and there's not much of a delay either with it.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's radio waves.
Meanwhile, he's like
so
230,000 miles away.
I don't know. I'm with you. It is very hard to believe that, like, by just using like radio communications and, they're able to transmit from the moon to the surface of the earth and then pick it up and then redistribute that signal out to everybody's radios across the world. Like, all in
What if it went wrong?
very, like, almost like without delay, very
Yeah.
real time almost,
That's weird. I just feel like that's very, very highly advanced for the time.
It could be. I have some information on that, which I'll share in a little bit, about specifics about the camera equipment and, the recording and audio and stuff, because that's the thing, right? This is like everybody's mind goes to this first, like, was it like, for us, it's hard to imagine what this technology was like or how it worked because we've never used it. And that's the whole thing with this, is like, it'd be interesting to get somebody's perspective that was there at the time versus like us trying to look back on something we never experienced. Like somebody that experienced this, it'd be interesting to hear what their thoughts would be, because
Yeah.
we can't possibly appreciate what the radio was like. Maybe the radio was way better, like it worked better than it works now. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah,
Because
but
we
weren't
don't
they
use-
watching it on TV? It wasn't just the radio.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just the radio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what's amazing to me. How are they live
Yeah,
streaming
in
a
the
picture
image and stuff. Yeah,
from
absolutely.
fucking space? Like, I'm sorry, but what?
They had wireless Wi-Fi.
I cannot believe that.
It is.
I really struggle with that part of it.
Well, you're gonna struggle with some more parts here in a sec.
Not saying that it's not real, but I'm saying
Yeah.
I question whether or not it was live on the day that they said it was, or if it happened before that and then they like made it live. Because that's way more exciting. Everyone tune in at once
That's
for the live thing.
for the live show.
Yeah, for real.
It's like printed in the newspaper and stuff. Like Saturday night at 7 p.m. we will be landing on the moon.
Yeah, the fucking moon. People must have been like, "What? This is crazy." I
car.
can't imagine. How exciting. What an exciting time to be alive and have witnessed that. But I just wonder if it was really live on July 20th. Maybe it was a couple days before that and they waited and made sure. Because, like, what if something happened? What if they went up there and
they died
fucking
on live
alien
TV.
like lands behind him and like slashes his throat?
Well, that's the thing.
In front of everyone on
You're
TV.
bringing up a great conspiracy right now.
I know.
This is great. This is hitting us with the big one first, all right? The conspiracy is that maybe maybe they like filmed everything and they did everything that they did, but the footage that we're seeing is completely like faked because the real one is just too crazy for us to see or something.
Yeah.
Or
could
there's
be.
something they don't want us to see in it. And so they had to give us this like feed. And the reason why it's so shitty and stuff is because they wanted to make it look realistic, even though it was faked, basically, is what
Could
you're
be.
saying.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I really don't have too many like solid opinions on this whole theory, honestly. I'm just very interested in it overall. Yeah,
It's good. It's a very interesting one.
it is. I like this one a lot.
All right. So here's some more interesting stuff. So obviously, ever since Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went to the moon, people have long speculated whether the landing was real or fake. This has been a debate for a very long time. And in fact, in 1999, a Gallup poll revealed that 6% of Americans doubted that the moon landing was real, while 5% said they were undecided on the issue. While it may not sound like a...
Sorry. It may not sound like a huge number.
Sorry, I sound like Sam from
But
Big
6%
Brother.
translates into millions of people, and that's millions of people that believe the entire moon landing was fake.
5% is a pretty big number, 6%.
Well, and including the 5% that are undecided, so that's 11%,
11%.
total that are kind of like maybe. Which I don't even know if I could. Yeah, I guess I'd be in the undecided.
And these are
group.
probably all the like critical thinkers that are like, this is fishy, this
Yeah.
is kind of questionable.
Right.
Like imagine if more people knew the stuff that we know
Yeah.
about this now. They would probably, that number would
Yeah.
skyrocket, I'm sure.
Well, and this is hard too, because like the way they word this, did they doubt that the moon landing was real? I don't doubt that we landed on the moon. I just doubt like a lot of like what we're being told about the whole incident and like that kind of stuff. So I feel like if there was
Like,
a group for that type of people that you still believe we landed, but you think there's some fuckery,
Yeah.
there'd be a larger
yeah.
percentage of people that are in that category.
Absolutely. So to even begin discussing whether or not the moon landing was a hoax or not, we have to look at, has NASA ever lied to us before?
Yep.
Do they doctor photos and footage?
Yep.
Do they literally like censor things that they give us?
Yep.
The answer to that is absolutely, and there is actually proof of this. And one of the big pieces of proof is a photo of astronaut Michael Collins, who was on a later the Gemini 10 spacewalk he was on. So this photo that you're seeing is, or if you're not seeing it, it's basically him floating in the air in
Well,
space.
he was,
yeah.
the one that they released.
Training, yeah.
But the training photo, yeah, they were doing some type of like getting people hyped about the moon, the Apollo missions and stuff, or some mission. They were getting people hyped about whatever was coming up. So they put out these pictures of them training. But then people
He's in an
noticed the
aircraft.
same fucking picture with the background taken out, photoshopped to make it look like he's in space.
When he did the actual spacewalk.
When he did the actual
right.
spacewalk. And it's the exact same. Like, no one can deny it. It is 100% the same position. Everything is the same. And they just took out the background. So that's proof right there. NASA did release that. That is real. No one can debunk that.
No.
So that's probably my biggest piece of evidence in this whole thing. Because, yeah, that definitely makes me think, okay, so there are people that just make fuckery in NASA.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a good modern like example is like there is a lot of like if you don't know, the International Space Station has a live stream of it.
Yes.
And it's very interesting because NASA literally shuts the live stream off whenever weird things happen or weird objects show up that should not be there, that they cannot necessarily explain, such as UFOs being spotted on the ISS cam, which is a real thing, and you can YouTube that. So there's just a lot of evidence, and I'll put a link below for you guys too, so you can see some other photos from the Apollo missions that may have been faked or edited or doctored up. And some of the photos we're going to talk about today, honestly, it really seems like there was some serious editing that was done to either hide something or, sort of make the photo, really fit their narrative. And I'll explain more about that here in a minute. But so another crazy thing too, when we're talking about the whole first theory of this idea that, how is it that the technology at the time was capable of doing this in the 60s and 70s, which is when the Apollo missions really got going. And for reference, the moon is 238,900 miles away.
That's a long
That is
ways.
so far away when you think about it. That is so fucking far away.
This is just off my memory, so I might be wrong. But isn't it true that we've only gone like 400 miles since? Is like the furthest into space we've gone?
Yeah, it's not with humans. Yes,
with humans.
Yeah,
like 400 miles versus 230,000 miles, guys.
Can you imagine
That's
how
crazy.
crazy that is? That's like,
why haven't we gone any further than that? That's just so weird to me. Like, oh, we got everything we need. We're done. What?
That's another great point. Because God, that's just such an epic voyage. 240,000 miles
and back
into
dude.
space.
It's like it's half a million miles total.
That's crazy.
I know. So like
humans experience that? That's crazy.
Why do I feel like there's some just real bullshit with that? Because you'd think that in 20 or even just after any time in the 2000s, we would have much better technology. And
why
it's not
is it
like
such
we
an
saw
issue?
all there is to see on the moon.
Hell no.
No, and like we need different. I mean, there's probably all types of stuff we could be looking into and checking out, trying to see the other side of it. And like, why do we just give up?
I'm gonna bust in a huge theory here.
A huge.
So my theory is that, since this initial, I guess I can save this for later because this is talking more about like why we haven't gone back. But
no, just say it now.
So it's also very possible that here's what happened. So we go to the moon, we do the little, walk on it, rover on it and stuff and plant our flag in it and then leave, which bring some rocks home with us. That's like basically what we did. Brought some rocks home.
Like 500 rocks or something crazy.
And
or thousands.
For me, I think that there's another reason. I think that the moon, either before they got there, already had some type of installation there of some sort that either the people, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin didn't know about, and they got there like, what?
Yeah, wait.
What is that? What is that? Is that a like structure over there, or
like a moon base?
I just think that there is most likely been a secret space program, which we'll do an episode on later, because that's a huge other thing out there that is already operating and doesn't want us civilians.
Don't you think though, if there was a international space, what did you just call it? I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
It's a secret space
program that like they would make sure NASA doesn't send people up there. Like, wouldn't they be like, you pretend like we don't have the technology yet, or you just keep saying we can't do it. Whatever. Like, why would they send them there and not warn them? Like, you'd think NASA is probably, if there is a secret space program, they probably work with at least someone at NASA.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing is like maybe they like told them to land at a specific spot. A specific spot.
Maybe.
And because the moon is still got a big surface, and maybe like the structures are just elsewhere, which we'll get into that. We're getting into really, really conspiratorial stuff right now because it's super interesting. But I want to get through the evidence for this before, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff about that I want to talk about after we talk about the actual evidence. You know what I'm saying? And then we can go crazy with it.
Yeah, go crazy with it. Get jiggy with it.
So get jiggy with it. Oh my God.
My dad used to always say that.
Get jiggy with it.
Isn't it a word my dad would say? Jiggy?
What even is that word? It sounds like a word from the 1950s
words.
Or something.
He loves that word and zesty.
Yeah,
everything was zesty when I was a kid.
I like zesty.
You're zesty.
Getting a little
or
zesty.
Spicy or something.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry. Anyway.
All right. So let's talk about just a few reasons for why, this may have happened in the first place. The moon landing being hoaxed. So many theorists that look at this have said that the space race is the reason for this, because during the Cold War, both the United States and the USSR, so now Russia, did all they could to outsmart each other and to demonstrate their technological superiority. Landing on the moon was viewed as a national and technological accomplishment that would generate worldwide praise and acclaim. But going to the moon would be risky and expensive, as told by President John F. Kennedy, in which he famously stated these words in a 1962 speech. I just want you to hear a little bit of JFK because we love JFK, and what he says is pretty interesting.
He constantly dropped truth bombs.
There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
So,
can he come back from the dead and be
oh
our
my
president
God.
now?
That was like, I was like, I'm ready to go to the fucking moon. Let's
he spoke
do
with
this.
such passion. I feel like I've never even, like, not even Obama or Bush or I guess anyone, Clinton. I feel like he spoke with so much passion.
Seriously, I mean, really inspiring guy for sure. Like,
yeah,
he knew how to rally people.
he cared
and be
about
like,
people.
God, that just seems so
Yeah.
weird to me to hear a president be like, we need to go to the moon. Let's go.
What if he said that and after that, then they're like, well, shit, now we got to go to the moon.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was alluding to, is that
Yeah. He said that.
maybe JFK was the one that actually made this whole thing happen
Yeah.
in the first place. And whoever's running the secret stuff.
Well, he definitely jabbed at the government for sure. We've played this in a podcast before, but you guys should look up JFK's speech on secret societies. Just put it into YouTube. Yeah. It is so interesting. And then it all makes sense. The whole assassination makes sense after that. It's like, oh.
I mean, he knew some shit. He knew some shit for sure.
Yeah, and he was spilling the beans everywhere.
So it was at this point in time in history, it was pretty obvious that whoever would win the space race would also win the Cold War. So that's why the USSR and USA said that they were trying so hard to get to the moon first. And to support this theory, it's important to consider how complex and expensive it would be to get to the moon in the first place. So the total cost of the Apollo program, so this is multiple missions, reported to Congress was $25.4 billion, which in today's dollars, I saw a figure that was like $100+ billion to do this, to get to the moon.
Okay, well,
which is not that much, which we spend trillions of dollars on the military.
Trillions of dollars are missing from our military budget.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Just missing. Just boop. We don't know where it went. So, like, that's bullshit to me. Like, come on, these people fucking have as like so much money.
Mm-hmm. But this is crazy. In 1969, Neil Armstrong only got $20,000 to go to the moon. To go to the moon, 20 grand. Which, I mean, I guess now would probably be like 60 or 80 probably, but
dude, it
still,
should be more than that.
Like,
God.
What the hell? He's the first guy.
The Big Brother contestants win $500,000. Like, damn, to go to the moon?
Seriously, that's
pretty
terrible.
Ballsy. Like, you might die up there. We
Getting
don't know.
used, Jesus.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Should be like, if you survive and come home, you will get a bonus,
dude,
of $5,000.
I knew someone who had a grandfather he actually was on the moon. He went to the moon, and he wasn't paid anything either.
Really?
Yeah. Like, he didn't have a lot of money, like you'd think.
What?
Yeah.
What? NASA? What the hell? Does anybody who listens work for NASA? Do they pay you guys fairly over there?
No, probably not.
Well, I mean,
It's
at the end of the day,
government
it's a government entity, so it's probably shitty. It's probably better to go work for SpaceX and Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Which, fuck NASA at this point. I'm putting my eggs into the Elon Musk basket that he's going to get us to Mars first.
I bet he will.
Civilians to Mars, at least. So, bearing in mind that traveling from the Earth to the moon was considered an impossibility to many, especially at that time, it is not far-fetched to imagine that somebody in NASA or in any other relevant government agency would come up with the idea of faking such an epic mission such as the moon, landing on the moon. So here is a counter theory that is popular to this idea that it was just too impossible to get to the moon because of the technology and everything. And this is from somebody named Philip Plait, who wrote a book called Bad Astronomy. And he said that the Soviets, with their own competing moon program, an extensive intelligence network, and a formidable scientific community, which was able to analyze NASA data, would have cried foul if the United States tried to fake a moon landing, especially since their own program had failed. Proving a hoax would have been a huge propaganda win for the Soviets, which honestly is a pretty good, fair point, honestly, right? Like, why would the US fake this when they're trying to like outdo Russia, who they're, in a Cold War with?
Yeah, because they would prove that we faked it.
Because that wouldn't they try to like prove to them
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be like the greatest ammunition to be like, look, American people, your government's literally faking this shit.
Oh, but they say that kind of stuff though on RT.
They
Their
do.
news.
They do actually.
Yeah, they talk about Martin Luther King, JFK. They talk about Gandhi. They talk about everything.
I wonder how much the Russians have been involved with the shaping of our nation, like in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, like going back years, because it seems like it's always been like them trying to fuck with us, and change events that happen and everything. It's weird. I don't know.
It
Makes
is
me
weird.
think. So since the Soviets had been sending unmanned spacecraft to the moon since 1959, conspiracy theorist Bart Sibrel responded saying the Soviets did not have the capability to track deep spacecraft until late in 1972, immediately after which the last 3 Apollo missions were abruptly canceled. Officially, there was nothing abrupt about the Apollo cancellations, which were announced in January and September of 1970 for cost-cutting reasons. So we don't even know why the rest of the Apollo missions got canceled later on. And obviously people say because of funding, or they say because of the ongoing Vietnam War that was going on at the time. So, another reason for why NASA may have wanted to hoax the landings is for funding purposes and for the prestige, I guess. So here's what conspiracy theorists say. Conspiracy theorists claim that NASA faked the landings to avoid humiliation and to ensure that it continued to get funding. This is a little bit more out there.
Yeah.
But apparently NASA raised about $30 billion US to go to the moon, and conspiracy theorist Bill Kaysing, which, if you were wondering where this like moon landing hoax kind of originated from, he's kind of the initiator of this hoax, because he claimed in his book that this could have been used to pay off many people, which that's the whole thing, right? The whole thing with like pulling this whole thing is like you need a lot of people to pull it off, I think. Maybe not, but how are you going to pay to keep people quiet and all of that?
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it so hard to believe they didn't go at all. Is that what they're saying? They just faked it completely?
Yes. So that's his argument. His argument is basically NASA never even went to the moon, even close to it, and that everything was faked. Everything.
That'd be a lot of people in on it. That'd be really hard to do.
Yes. As many have said that it would be harder to fake the moon landings than actually go to the moon. A lot of people say that. A lot of scientists say that and stuff. They're like, it's way harder to do that.
Be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, to do it and like pull it off to where everybody believes it at that time period.
Right. And then it becomes like part of like world history that we went. I feel like they would not lie that much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they couldn't do it, why wouldn't they have just not done it then? That makes it easier for them. Right?
No, it does. It does make it easier for them.
I think they had maybe done it before they said that they finally did.
Right. Who says that there couldn't have been already people going to the moon for years before?
They totally could. Maybe they needed to check it out And there's plenty of places that you could like launch a rocket from without anyone knowing.
Or even better, here's a twist. What if we back engineered alien technology from Roswell, and that allowed us to interstellar travel in the 1940s and 50s into the 60s before we even went on
And
the
then
Apollo.
Around 69, they're like, "Hey, it's a good time to let the
Like,
people
all right,
in
we've
on
been
the
doing
secret."
this. We've already got our base set
possible.
up.
That's totally possible. I would believe that more than I would believe the
Put your tin
idea that
hat
we've
on.
just never been. Like, I don't believe that.
I don't know,
believe it.
man. It's hard. It's hard to believe it. It really is. So most theorists believe that sending men to the moon was impossible at that time, and they argue that the landings had to be faked in order to fulfill Kennedy's 1961 goal. Before this decade is out of, landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth is the goal or mission. So could be. I mean, honestly, like we were just talking about, it could very well have happened for real because JFK was like, we should do this.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we doing this?
Yeah. Or he knew that it was already being done.
Right.
And he was like,
Right.
now you motherfuckers have to tell them.
Yeah. Now, right.
That's what he was doing all the time.
JFK, the disclosure king, was
He
like going to
was.
bring disclosure on all these different things, and then he got a bullet in the head
Yep.
for it because they
Mhm.
knew that was what he was going to do.
God, it was crazy. We were at a barbecue the other night, and like most of the people there believed that JFK was assassinated by the government. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. Like, I was like, wow, people are more woke than I thought. But
Because
anyway.
come on. Except, God, yeah. You know, I think the people that are still skeptical just haven't heard the whole story. You know, they
Yeah.
haven't seen all of the evidence. They haven't
And
heard.
they're too freaked out to even look.
It scares. It
'Cause
can scare you.
It does. I think some people, this shit rocks their world. They're like, everything is a lie. My whole life is a lie. Like, how can I go on?
Well, remember when we first started, it really does send
Yeah.
you down that kind of,
Yeah.
spiraled rabbit hole where you're
Mhm.
like, oh my
it doesn't
God.
freak
like,
me out anymore, and nothing really shocks me anymore. But at first, it was pretty like, wow. Like, I remember the thing that got me the most was Dr. Greer's movie,
Yeah, Unacknowledged and
Unacknowledged.
Serious
Yeah, and
Disclosure,
Serious
yeah.
Disclosure. Because after I watched
Serious,
Unacknowledged, I was like, whoa. Oh my, like, wow. So much evidence, like just piles and piles and piles of evidence. It's crazy. If you have not seen that movie, it's hopefully still on Netflix.
yeah.
Stephen
hopefully.
Greer. We're hoping one day to have him on the podcast, maybe, guys.
Yes,
Cross your fingers.
Yes, because, yeah, that would be amazing because he would have a lot of interesting stuff to say about this. So,
And we might be able to pull it off.
yes, we might be able to do it. But others, all right. So other theories have said, as claimed in a book called Dark Moon, Apollo, and the Whistleblowers, that with all the known and unknown hazards, NASA would not risk broadcasting an astronaut getting sick or dying on live television
Yeah.
as a reason for faking it.
That's also a great point. Not only did they not know what could be up there, I think that's why it wasn't live streamed. I think it was done a few days before, the day before, or even in hours of delay. Because what if he really did step down and like got disintegrated? Like, who knows what could happen if they really
Yeah.
hadn't been to the moon yet?
Right.
Maybe they were like, we can't put this on live TV. Like, who knows what if he like ran out of oxygen or something crazy happened, or he flew away, or we didn't know what could go on back then. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's kind of risky to show that
It is.
to 500 million people.
It is, but here's the counter argument to that.
Okay.
So NASA, in fact, did incur a great deal of public humiliation and potential political opposition to the program by losing an entire crew in the Apollo 1 fire during a ground test.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no video broadcast
Yeah.
of this either.
How is that? It's
Well,
not
they're
about
just-
humiliation. That's not the point of this.
Right.
The point is them not wanting to like scare a ton of people, like cause mass panic or something.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying obviously
and
the
it's-
fire was embarrassing for them or whatever.
3 people died though. Like
Yeah.
3 astronauts died.
I know, but that is
It's not the same.
on
no.
live TV.
Yeah, it's
So it's
not
not
the
gonna,
same.
like,
and it's
it's
not on
not.
the moon. They weren't on the
Exactly.
moon.
And I don't think the point was not to have NASA avoid embarrassment. It was to have them avoid like a major PR problem and just like, tons of people getting scared to shitless, basically. That's why I think they could have recorded it in advance.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're onto something. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible that they had to, delay the release of it. They had to edit it. They had to, create like a perfect little montage for people.
Or they didn't.
Or
and
they
it was
didn't,
just
or it was-
as it is, but it was still filmed early just to make sure everything went smoothly.
That's true.
I mean,
That's
they
true.
even do that with RuPaul's Drag Race. They filmed the finale 3 times with all different winners just in case. But sorry, that was random.
No. So is there a reason for NASA to want to host the moon landings? To sum up this section.
It's hard to say when you word it like that. Hoax the moon landings, because that makes it sound like they didn't even do it.
No, I
So,
know. I know. So you don't believe that they, like, you completely are 0% sure that they completely faked the whole thing.
I'm 0% sure.
Went. Or you're 100% sure.
I do not think that we have not been to the moon.
Okay.
I think that humans have been to the moon.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. I agree with you. I'm not a believer of we've never been to the moon ever in all of history and it's all been done in a studio. I don't believe that.
And don't come for me and call me closed-minded because I'm thinking. Like, we all should be able to make our own...
If you believe that, then fine.
Then good.
Good.
I totally respect anyone's opinion. I just think that you really, to like be taken seriously in conspiracies or to like make sure you don't like go off the deep end and start believing everything you hear, you have to have some skepticism and think for yourself and kind of make a decision that makes the most sense for you without jumping to conclusions or just eating up what someone else has says, you know?
Amen, sister.
Amen, motherfucker.
All right, but before we continue with this epic podcast, we want to thank Quip for sponsoring today's episode. Quip is an electric toothbrush, and it's a fraction of the cost of other brushes. And this toothbrush is great. We've been using ours for weeks now, and we love it.
Keeping our teeth clean.
I love it because I never would like time my brushes right. So like this like vibrates and like it's very easy to use. It's one button.
It's
You
very
push
sleek
it.
looking. I like how it looks in our bathroom too. It's very modern.
It is. It's extremely modern. It's the Tesla of toothbrushes.
It really is.
So and the timer does the dentist recommend in 2 minutes, which is great. So you may always know you get a perfect brush. So it's a subscription and they deliver new brush heads for you on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, including free shipping worldwide.
That's awesome.
Seriously,
Keeping it
it's
affordable for
very
everyone.
affordable.
Yeah.
Everybody can pretty much afford that.
Because sometimes brush heads are like fucking so expensive. Remember,
Hell yeah,
like
the Oral B ones are like $30 for
damn.
like it's like $10 a head.
you want to get the Costco pack, that's going to cost you $50.
You want the off-brand? You got
So yeah, and then you just avoid replacing it because you're like me and you don't want to buy another one, so it goes way too long. So this is really nice. It's just like on a dentist recommended schedule.
Yep, and they give you a mount that suctions
$5
right to your mirror,
including free shipping. Yep.
and then it unsticks to become a case when you travel. It's really genius.
Yeah, you could stick it up on your like if you were like at a hotel, you could stick it up and mount it on the
Yeah,
mirror,
on the mirror.
there.
and then
It's
pull
really
it off.
convenient.
It's very
Really
convenient.
smart.
And everyone loves it, man. And we're not just saying that. We have friends that love it. They're on Oprah's O list, named one of Time's best inventions. And it is the first subscription electric toothbrush accepted by the American Dental Association. That's a big deal. And they're backed by a network of over 20,000 dentists and hygienists, and obviously hundreds of thousands of happy brushers who use it every day. So Quip starts at just $25 for the brush. And if you go to getquip.com/milehigher right now, you'll get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/milehigher. getquip.com/milehigher. So check out Quip. All right. Here we go. Here's some claims, and we'll also present counter arguments. So we're making sure we're fair to both sides so we can make our own decisions about the evidence. So many moon landing conspiracy theories have been put forward, claiming either that the landings did not happen and that NASA employees have lied, or that the landings did not happen in the way they have been told, which is what Kendall and I are leaning towards. So conspiracists have focused on perceived gaps or inconsistencies in the historical record of the missions. The idea is that the whole manned landing program was a hoax from start to the end, but some claim that the technology to send men to the moon was lacking, or that the Van Allen radiation belts, solar flares, solar wind, coronal mass ejections, cosmic rays made this trip impossible. A man by the name of Vince Calder and Andrew Johnson, who are scientists from Argonne National Laboratory, gave detailed answers to the conspiracist claims on the laboratory's website. They show that NASA's portrayal of the moon landing is fundamentally accurate, allowing for such common mistakes as mislabeled photos and imperfect personal recollections. Keep in mind that when we examine the evidence for why the moon landing could have been faked. So, a lot of this has to do with photograph and film oddities that are supposedly genuine photo and video of the moon and astronauts on the moon. And, you know, if you're listening to this, it's going to be a bit difficult to see, but of course you can always go look it up after or watch the YouTube video after, because we'll put it up for people. But I'll try to explain what we're looking at. So here are some of the main arguments and counter arguments for the possibility that NASA may have edited the footage or actually done this in a studio.
Onward.
All right. All right. Claim number 1 is, in some photos, crosshairs seem to be behind objects. The cameras were fitted with a rajout plate, a clear glass plate with crosshairs etched on, making it impossible for any photographed object to appear in front of the grid. This suggests that objects have been pasted over them. So when looking at the pictures that I've got, there's a picture of what looks like some type of device on the surface of the moon. There's an astronaut with the crosshairs all around it, and then there's a flag with the crosshairs that looks like the flag's behind the crosshairs. I don't see that as, I don't know. What does that look like to you? Does that look like crosshairs behind it?
It looks like it's before it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's being taken at it.
Yes. And same with the other ones. I mean, they all look like pretty much.
Well, the middle one.
Yeah. Actually, the middle one is definitely behind. Yeah.
So will you be showing all 3 of these on the screen at
Yes.
once so we can just like, yeah.
Yeah.
So the middle one here has, I mean, it's clearly cut off on one side and it is going behind it because you would see it go over the top of that white thing, whatever it is.
So, yeah. And this could just be, you know, because so the problem is that a lot of these photos could be copied or scanned photos and not the originals, is what some people say.
But
or
what
that
does
it's
that
caused
mean?
by
What would that do?
overexposure.
What does that even do though? Like, even if they were, that wouldn't change the crosshairs. The crosshairs are from
I
the
mean,
camera,
I don't know what the
right?
technicality with that is, but yeah, I don't know how that would change it either. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing with it is like, I don't know that these are original photos.
It's the result of them being cropped? How? Like, why would it change the crosshairs from the original picture of the camera? Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything.
That doesn't make any sense. That's like a really stupid explanation.
Well, so basically, when we're talking about these crosshairs, they're just saying that these are like, you know, just due from regular like editing type things and like developing.
No, but a crosshair is in the
The
camera.
viewfinder.
It's in the viewfinder. For those of you who don't know, it's like a little cross
Why would a crosshair
that to help you like line up your photo and get it centered. So that is in the camera.
Yeah.
There's no editing that's gonna fuck that up. There's nothing that would fuck that up. That's the camera.
Yeah.
So like it still doesn't make sense of why it's like that, and their explanation makes 0 sense. So
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I don't know.
It is weird. It's a weird one.
That's the best explanation they could come up with.
So some others say that the quality of the photographs is unexpectedly high, especially the one with the astronaut. I mean, that's pretty like fucking clear. That looks like
Damn. Yeah, it is. God, I can't believe their rocket ship that they landed on the moon in. The fuck?
I know.
It seriously looks like a time machine someone built in their basement with like foil and blocks. It is
Seriously.
so bad. It looks
It
horrible.
reminds me of the Doritos commercial.
Can you imagine being like, all right, we're going to put you in one of these and send you 230,000 miles into space?
Yeah, the lunar
Buckle up.
module is crazy
It is. It looks like
underwhelming looking.
Oh my God. It looks like a prop from like Star Wars or
It
something.
does.
Like old Star Wars.
It does. That's the thing is like aesthetically to us right now, it seems old and crazy looking and like
And it's like with
not
what we have
technolog-
now, why have we not gone back?
Right. But you
Come
got to
on.
also think about like at the time in 1969, that probably looked like crazy to people. Like, whoa, it's like a crazy spaceship.
Still, I wouldn't have gone
You
in
remember
that
the
thing and
60s and
traveled that
70s,
far.
man? This was way different, like aesthetically. So
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm just saying that people could have thought like, oh yeah, that's like an alien spacecraft. It's so cool looking.
Well,
But to
yeah, they
us,
probably
it's, like,
thought it was
crappy.
cool looking, but I'm saying I wouldn't have gotten in that shit taking a ride. Like, oh my God.
No, I mean,
It looks like the chances of that actually working are like 50%.
it looks like a tin can or something
really
like landing on the surface. Like
it looks like an art project that was made out of all like recycled materials. That would be
does.
like on display at an art
they got like
museum.
aluminum foil and like strapped it to some like metal beams, and
Oh, it's funny.
what a tight ride to the moon that would have been
Yeah,
in that
dude.
little thing.
Can you
all of
imagine
them.
what he was thinking? Oh my God.
So the quality of some of the photographs are high, but there are also many poor quality photos taken by Apollo astronauts, and NASA only chose to publish the good ones as best examples, which obviously they did tweak these and like make them look better. I mean, we know that they do that. They do that with the Hubble photographs they take with the telescope. They doctor it, add contrast color to make it look fucking awesome, to like grab you. So are those fake? I don't know. It could be completely real though, and just like slightly edited. Because they were using high resolution Hasselblad 500 EL cameras with Carl Zeiss optics and a 70mm medium format film magazine. So this is like a high tech camera for the time. Pretty crazy looking, right?
Yeah.
It does look pretty high tech
It
though,
does for the time.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible they could have gotten those images on the moon, those clear images. All right, here's another claim. There are no stars in any of the photos, and the Apollo 11 astronauts also claimed in post-mission press conference to not remember seeing any stars.
What? How could you just not remember seeing stars? Wait, what?
A lot of them didn't see stars.
They really claim that?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I know, that's hard to
That's
believe.
crazy.
So maybe that's a lie, but that's something that's out there that people believe, that the astronauts themselves didn't remember seeing stars. But
Well, do we know that they said that?
I don't know who exactly.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay. So there's a lot of photographs where there is, picture of them on the moon. You see the lunar module, you see the surface of the moon, and you see the black behind them, and yet there's no stars there. There's nothing. It's just black. It looks like almost like a black backdrop. So the reasoning is that so the astronauts were talking about naked eye sightings of stars during the lunar daytime.
Wow. Neil Armstrong said
Yeah.
that he couldn't see stars in space. Wow.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I thought that was, yeah.
What? How?
But they regularly sighted stars through the spacecraft navigation optics while aligning their inertial reference platforms. All manned landings happened during the lunar daytime. Thus, the stars were outshone by the sun and by the sunlight reflecting off the moon's surface.
Okay, that
Makes sense. Yeah, because it's lunar daytime. I can't see the fucking stars in the day. Can you?
No.
Right. So it's the same kind of thing.
But like
you're
they're
on the
in
moon.
space.
Right, but you're
Why
on
is
the-
it so black?
Because there's no atmosphere on that bitch. We have an atmosphere that makes it blue.
See, this is why it's so hard to even like make an opinion on this, or because we don't fucking know. I've never been to the moon. How would
Yeah,
I know
and-
what it's like?
Right, and none of us are like astronomers or astrophysicists, so
Yeah.
we
It's
don't
hard to
know
say.
like every fact about what space is
A
like.
lot of this stuff just
or
sounds
been
like,
there.
But it's hard because we also, on the other coin of that, we don't know anything, so it's easy to lie to us, and we believe everything they say. So
Right. That's the tricky thing about this. That's the hard thing. So the astronauts' eyes were adapted to the sunlit landscape around them so that they could not see the relatively faint stars. Under these conditions, photographers shooting with a fast exposure time and a small aperture, which makes it impossible to capture faint objects in the dark background, such as stars. The effect is similar to not being able to see stars from a brightly lit car park at night. The stars only become visible when the lights are turned off. The astronauts could see stars with the naked eye only when they were in the shadow of the moon. To me, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know if I want to refute that. I think that makes
I'm not
sense.
an expert, so I'll take it.
I'll take the expert opinion. Now, this is one that gets a lot of people bugging, all right?
Bugging.
They get bugging about the fact that the angle and the color of shadows are inconsistent, which suggests that artificial lights were used. Now, there are a lot of photos online of like people trying to like point to like shadows that are going opposite ways from where they should be going and this and that. And this is another one where I'm like, I don't know, because the official explanation kind of makes sense. So shadows on the moon are complicated by reflected light, uneven ground, and wide-angle lens distortion in lunar dust. There are several light sources: the sun, sunlight reflected from the Earth, sunlight reflected from the moon's surface, and sunlight reflected from the astronauts and the lunar module. Light from these sources is scattered by lunar dust in many directions, including into shadows. Shadows falling into craters and hills may appear longer, shorter, and distorted. Furthermore, shadow display the properties of vanishing point perspective, leading them to converge to a point on the horizon. And this was also debunked on the Mythbusters episode NASA Moon Landing. They actually tested this out, which to me, this kind of makes sense, right? Because you have all the, you do have multiple light sources on the moon, as I just said. So it does make it possible that shadows could be going crazy ways. And plus, you weren't on the moon, so how could you possibly know that shadows go a certain way or not? What if they do go a certain different ways for whatever reason, just because you're on the moon?
I guess, yeah. But it's pretty simple. A shadow is a shadow.
No, I know, but so they're saying things could be reflecting off different things.
Okay. I don't know. That's a little weird to me. I
mean, they did test this theory out in the Mythbusters episode. Mythbusters.
I love Mythbusters.
I'm a Mythbuster. The NASA moon landing. So maybe you need to watch that and see it for yourself. I've looked into this a little bit, and it is weird that some of the shadows do appear to be going opposite ways than they should be. But the idea that there is multiple points of light coming in that could be affecting the directions of the shadows is interesting too. But some of it does, to a normal person, looks weird. Why would it, if the sun was hitting him from this way, why would the shadow be going the opposite way, or this way, and not the normal way? So. Another claim is that there are identical backgrounds in photos, which, according to their captions, were taken miles apart. This suggests that a painted background may have been used. And it's not. It's just similar photos where hills in the same photos were actually mountains and farther away. So that's a easy one to sort of say, maybe, but I don't know. It could be totally just a similar, different perspective. So this one is, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. So this is kind of a famous claim, the Sea Rock. There's photos that contain artifacts that seemingly match seas on a rock on the ground. Some have said that these are labeled studio props. What do you think? Does that look like
I think not.
Yeah.
Well, number one, why the fuck would you label them? It's not like you need your stuff in a certain way. Why would you have a plan of where each rock was going to go? They'd even in Hollywood, they don't label their props. The set people just take it and put it where they think it would look good.
Right. And if this was the most top secret movie ever made, you'd think they wouldn't fuck that up.
Yeah, you'd think you'd make sure that the sea wasn't on the wrong side. Whoever, you're fired if you set that up. So I think that's bullshit. And I think they released a photo that showed it without it. The original one.
It's just a coiled hair, dude.
Yeah, it's just, and it looks like a hair, and it honestly looks like an eyebrow or an eyelash to me. That's just happened to be in this little shape.
It does.
And if you look at it closely, I actually noticed the bottom of this sea looks slightly different than the rest of it. So I think the hair is only this part, and then this is actually part of the rock. The bottom of it is just a crevice of the rock.
Yeah, totally. And it totally looks like it's sitting above it. It doesn't look like it's on the rock.
No. The way that it's, you would be able to tell more if it was carved into the rock. Why would you do that though? No one puts that sea.
Who would carve a sea for the prop?
Is there a giant sea underneath so that that sea goes there?
Wouldn't you put the carving underneath where you won't see it, not right on the top left of it or something?
Yeah, well, people think that they had it on the wrong side, that it should have been upside down. But you'd think you'd double check that shit,
Maybe. Maybe it's a prop.
That's not a prop, I don't think.
All right, next photo has to do with the claim that there appear to be hot spots in some photos that look like a huge spotlight was used.
Stage light.
Yeah. So a stage light or a studio light. So the actual official explanation for this is that pits on the moon's surface focus and reflect light like the tiny glass spheres used in coating of street signs or dewdrops on wet grass. This creates a glow around the photographer's own shadow when it appears in a photograph. If the astronaut is standing in sunlight while photographing into shade, light reflected off his white spacesuit yields a similar effect to a spotlight. Some widely published Apollo photos were high contrast copies. Scans of the original transparencies are generally much more evenly lit, which that's my thing is like, obviously the photo's been like, the contrast has probably been bumped up to show the like,
Yeah.
to make the photo look good, you know?
Yeah, but that's a crazy good photo. I'm a little shocked by that.
Looks very good, right?
It's
Very
really
clear.
good. Yeah. Wow.
But then again, those cameras are actually really good cameras.
Am I making this up, or didn't they have like someone like Stanley Kubrick make the cameras, or like
Make the cameras?
I'm sorry, I'm
No.
probably confusing two different. I'm crossing conspiracy lanes here. Okay, I don't think Stanley Kubrick has anything to do with this, but the cameras they made were like special.
Well, people think he was the one that, if this was faked, he did it.
Right, but that's a whole nother
Yeah,
theory. I'm saying
yeah.
the camera, if believing that it's real, the cameras that they brought up there was something to them. I remember there was like they were really good, and
They're called,
I don't even remember. There was something
yeah,
interesting to
they're
it,
the
though.
Hasselblad
Right.
500 EL cameras with the Carl.
There's something interesting about it. I
Zeiss
can't
optic.
remember off the top of my head, but anyway, just go on.
Okay.
Sorry.
So this one has got me bugging a little bit, and this is that there in other photographs there's strange lights that appear, which some have said are reflections from studio lights on a production set, and hoax believers say that many shadows look strange in the Apollo pictures where this happens. So to elaborate on the shadows thing, they said that some don't appear to be parallel with each other, and some objects in shadow appear more well lit, hinting the light was coming from studio cameras. So, but this is very weird, especially this first photograph of the light. It does look like there's like two lights behind. Like, what the hell is that? What is that reflecting off of?
Let me
and
see.
Onto what? That first photo. First one. Yeah.
Okay.
That one.
Where?
The lights on the left. What are those? What are those?
Those look like
What
just
are
like
those?
regular camera orbs to me. Like, look, there's this bigger part right here. That looks like reflecting sun to me. The sun's clearly coming from that side, so, it
So
would
the
make
sun
sense.
is coming down, hitting there. It just looks weird on camera. I
Dude,
guess.
come on. If this was, if those were lights, whoever released these photos should be fired for missing that. Like, come on.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
accidentally like fucking this up. If they are really trying to pull off a fake moon landing,
Why would
they would
they-
not leave stage lights in the fucking pictures. Like, especially
Yeah.
that obvious. There's another one that's a little more interesting to
Yeah,
me, but
and that's this last photograph too. So in one of the images of an Apollo 12 astronaut, in the visor in the top right, you can see this like thing that just sort of hangs down a little bit that bears a lot of similarity to a studio light, a cam
Yeah.
light. And it really does. Like, I mean, it's hard to see it because it's so grainy. So like it is, little, some of it's left up to the imagination, but it looks
But
like
if
a
it's
little,
not,
cylindrical object with like the little like,
little barn door things going on.
yeah, exactly. Off the end of it, like a stage light.
But like, again, why would they release a photo with it? Like, you'd obviously be thinking there's probably someone whose job is to make sure this all looks real if this was the case. And like, you'd probably think about the fact that in pictures, their helmets, their faces reflect everything. So they would be checking this kind of stuff.
You would think,
But
but
I
maybe
want to
not.
know what that is, because it doesn't explain what it is. Unless it's like a little mark. It almost looks like some foundation got on his little mask. Sorry.
Yep, that's it.
Case closed. But
Should
what if
have
it's like a
used that-
space bug or like I don't know. I mean,
A
what is
space
it?
bug?
Is it on his helmet or is it
Yeah,
reflecting
it's a
someone?
reflection. It looks like it's reflecting, but we don't know what's behind. Like, we can't see what's in front of him. Maybe the lunar module's right there or something. Like, I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's weird for sure.
It could be a camera though, like to film them.
Well, that's the thing, is it could just be the lunar module camera hanging off the side of
that's
it or
what
something.
it probably is.
Yeah.
Interesting. It would be so interesting to have them here to like explain to us what they think it is, or like what
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be really, like, if we got Buzz Aldrin on here or something.
That'd be sick.
Because here's the thing, and this goes off of what we just said. So there's also people that believe this theory that it was hoax. They're like, well, who filmed Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon? Well, the lunar module did, because the lunar module housed a TV camera actually on it. So maybe that camera was what we're seeing, that reflection of that astronaut. So Because once Buzz Aldrin jumped off, or Neil Armstrong jumped off the lunar module, that little camera came out and filmed them on the moon, supposedly. So maybe it's that. But, oh, this is interesting. So this is how the live feed thing works. This is how they live feeded from the moon. This is interesting. So the TV camera was stowed in the lunar module's descent stage in the modularized equipment stowage assembly in the storage area on the lunar module's ladder. This camera was released when Armstrong, standing on the lunar module's porch, pulled a lanyard, allowing it to unfold. Though covered with a thermal blanket, the lens poked through a hole so it could see everything going on. Inside the lunar module cabin, Buzz Aldrin hit a circuit breaker that turned the camera on, allowing it to capture Armstrong's walk down the ladder and first steps on the moon. The signal was sent from the lunar module's antenna to the tracking stations at Goldstone, Honeysuckle Creek near Canberra, and the park's radio astronomy site in New South Wales, Australia. Wow, that's crazy. NASA used a scan converter to adapt the image to broadcast standard format of 525 scan lines at the higher 30 FPS rate. Then the tracking stations transmitted the signals by microwaves to Intelsat Communications satellites and AT&T landlines to Mission Control in Houston, at which point they were broadcast to the world. The translation process left the image significantly degraded, but it was still live footage of man's first steps on the moon.
Interesting.
So that's the official explanation.
Well,
for
it
that.
doesn't sound like impossible for sure, but I don't know.
Because like the actual footage of the moon landing is very grainy. It is not clear at all.
So they're basically saying that the camera was like set up so that it would just start recording whenever they took the steps. It wasn't like a planned time. Was it like, did they tell people, all right, guys, 6 p.m. PST, the moon landing is happening?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Was it just like whenever they did it?
I think it was just kind of whenever they did it. I don't think it was
that's
like
what this said.
Because how would you plan that too? How would you be like, all right, astronauts, you're going to step out of the lunar module at like, how would you do that?
Yeah. Interesting.
It probably was like breaking news. Like,
well, it's like
here's what's happening.
They don't know exactly what time they're going to land there. And it's not like they're going to be like, okay, stay in there until it's a good TV broadcasting time. We want to be on prime time, like 7 p.m. So just sit in the fucking spacecraft and wait to go out, you know? So I feel like it probably was just at a random time. I wish we knew. I wonder, what time was it?
But what's interesting...
But was it scheduled? I don't know.
Yeah, no. But what's interesting is that the signal was sent and relayed from multiple sites before making it to like people at home. It hit Australia first, and then Australia pushed it to NASA, and then NASA pushed it to AT&T and Intelsat. So in my mind, it makes me think that they did something. You know, they may have been able to like quickly cut through it and figure out what they want to cut in and out, if this was in fact like a live stream type of situation versus like a pre-recorded. Oh, you're going to bring him in? Okay.
I brought my dog up. He was giving me cute looks on the floor. He wanted to come up.
Okay, well, he needs to be quiet.
He will.
All right, so let's get into some other claims here that are interesting. So one claim is that the astronauts could not have possibly survived the trip to the moon because of exposure to radiation from the Van Allen radiation belt and galactic ambient radiation.
Oh yeah, this is interesting too.
So these Van Allen belts, where the Earth's magnetic field concentrates solar radiation, would be dangerous only if people lingered there for several days. And in the astronauts' situation, they actually whizzed through it in a matter of hours, receiving a radiation dose no greater than a medical X-ray. How do they know it's a medical X-ray? That's what I want to know. But that's the thing, is they went through it. They apparently went through it fast enough that they weren't going to get like killed by this radiation. But still, that's crazy. I wonder.
I mean, you can't really test that out. So
No.
Imagine being like, all right, I guess we're the test dummies.
No, you can't.
Good
test
thing I'm
that
being
out.
paid $20,000 for this. Like, what the fuck? That's
God,
so crazy.
to risk your life, like, God, it's crazy.
Gosh.
All right, here's a big one, and this one, like, especially when you look into it more, you're like, come on, like, I don't know. For me, at least, the flag. All right, so the flag thing is a big point of contention for people that believe that this may have been faked or done in a studio. So when the American flag was placed on the surface of the moon by astronauts, it fluttered despite there being no wind on the moon.
Oh, right.
And according to hoax believers, they believe that it was filmed on Earth and a breeze caused the flag to flutter. Some have said that it may have been caused by indoor fans used to cool the astronauts since their spacesuit cooling systems would have been too heavy to be wearing on Earth.
So the idea is that they think that they forgot that you can't have wind in space. Like NASA fucked up when they were faking it and they just screwed up on that. Is that like the idea?
Yeah, basically. Because like the whole thing with it is the flag looks like it's waving in the wind. It's all crinkled up, which it was crinkled up because it was folded up really tightly inside the lunar module for placing on the moon. So that would explain the creasing and all of that and having like kind of a crazy thing. Plus, you have to remember when we start talking about the moon stuff is like the moon has 1/6 the amount of gravity that Earth does.
Yeah.
So things just look weird there. It looks wonky and like fake almost there because it's so different. The environment's so different.
And NASA basically explained the flag. Oh, do you want?
Yeah. Go ahead.
They said that it was inertia, that when you set something down, it's going to stay in motion, basically.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of makes sense.
So here's a little bit of the footage. So they bring the flag over and they're moving it, and
it looks really hard. It looks like really.
It looks stiff, doesn't it? It looks like it's
for
stiff,
sure.
and like he's moving it back and forth. So of course it's kind of like wavering, but it's not like flowing like flapping. It's not flat like that. That's what people say, but that's because
I don't know. That part's weird. That part's a little weird, right?
But it stops so. I don't know. Yeah, he had his hand on it, though. He was, like, jerking it around. Then he let go of it, I think. And then it stops. That's the thing, is it's not weight. And then it's just, like, stays steady. So, like, yeah, there might be a little bit of motion, but I don't know if you can conclusively say that it's, like, flapping in the wind.
Yeah, and again, unless you've been to space, it's hard to say.
Right. And without air drag, these types of movements caused by the free corner of the flag to swing like a pendulum. So this is actually one of the most common like points that are brought up by people that believe in this theory, actually, the flag, which I don't know. To me, it just seems like it was moving because it was already in motion.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Things in motion stay in motion, right?
Exactly. All right. So here's another claim is that footprints in the moon dust are unexpectedly well preserved despite the lack of moisture, which the official explanation is that moon dust has not been weathered like Earth sand and has sharp edges. This allows the dust particles to stick together and hold their shape in the vacuum. The astronauts likened it to talcum powder or wet sand, which that explanation to me makes sense. And none of us have been to the moon, so I haven't like put my feet in the sand on the moon. But it like has that same consistency as like wet sand or talcum powder when you step into it because
weird.
It hasn't been weathered. That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can't compare it to anything we know. Obviously, it's going to look weird to us because we don't have anything like that. We don't have anything like the surface of the moon on Earth, obviously. So who knows what it would look like, you know?
It's very true. How do you even like simulate the moon sand? You know, like can you make moon sand?
Yeah.
So the next claim is probably for me, like one of the more intriguing pieces of evidence for that. You know, maybe we did go to the moon. Maybe we did do everything that we did there. But maybe some of the video footage that NASA released was like literally done in a studio possibly, because like it just looks really wonky when the astronauts are hopping around on the moon, and it oftentimes looks like they might be pulled up by wires, and just by how they move, it's very different than anything I've ever seen. So some of them like literally like fall down face forward, and then they're able to like bounce, like literally get pulled right back up.
Well, it's weird to fall in space, right?
Yeah.
Like how would you fall without gravity? Like he like tripped and fell.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's so hard to tell. But then there's a lot of weird clips where like right here, where you can just see his wire like light up, like clearly something over his head is reflecting.
Yeah, it's really weird.
What is that? Come on, that's weird. That is really weird.
Some of it just looks bizarre. Like, how are they just getting like...
It looks like he's on a wire.
Like that, how he just like
all of a
jumps
sudden
up,
shoots
like
up.
shoots up. Yeah, that's the main thing. Is like it looks like they're like
And you can
shooting
see
up.
these wires in multiple clips where they kind of like are reflecting. Does anyone say what
Yeah,
that is?
like-
Is there any rebuttals for that? Like what it could
And then they
be?
just like shoot up. Whoa, like boing. But maybe that's because of the gravity, though. You only have to put a tiny bit of force to shoot up like that.
Yeah. No, that's definitely what it is. But I think the weirdest thing to me is those wires that
Yeah,
show up. Like
yeah.
if they're not wires, I just want to know what they are.
Which, here's the thing, is like it's very possible that like there is a mixture of like authentic footage for some of the like the
Yes.
early stuff was authentic, but then later on the later
Yeah.
Apollo missions were like a little bit more questionable
Right.
as to the authenticity of it being on the moon versus them doing it just like in a studio or
Yeah,
something.
this is their okay, so they have a rehearsal rig. So they have like a fake thing that holds people up.
And then
So-
like trampolines almost like you could just kind of be
Yeah.
walking and then just kind of like doing.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know.
to
It's so
just-
again, it's just so hard to say because you just can't have any concept of what 1/6 of the Earth's gravity would be like.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the most difficult thing, and yeah, I mean,
But I
keep-
don't know. The getting up thing is crazy.
Yeah.
Like when he falls down and then he just shoots back up.
Yeah, and there's like another clip that he just like remember he's like laying like face down,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden he's just like
Don't,
"Joop,"
don't. Yeah.
like straight like you can do that on the moon, like that's
Yeah.
how do you do
I
that?
have no idea.
That's craziness.
I don't know. That's crazy though.
So maybe it was done in a studio with wires. Maybe it's possible.
God.
It's definitely possible. Others point to the way that the moon dust sort of comes off of the rover in some of the rover footage on the moon. But this has been, I think, pretty readily debunked just by the mere fact that the dust settles like the way it should on the moon with 1/6 of the gravity.
This is really interesting. Hang on. So on this YouTube video that we have pulled up of astronauts on wires is what it's labeled. YouTube has inserted a encyclopedia definition of the Apollo space program on top of it. Is this their effort to like combat fake news?
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. All these social media networks are getting so much shit for fake stuff that they're starting to put wiki things on encyclopedia things
Britannica. Wow.
on YouTube videos.
I know.
And they'll probably be on mine eventually. This is the first one I've actually seen. I've heard that they were going to do this, but pretty crazy.
The video you're watching is clearly not the facts. Learn the facts on Encyclopedia
Yeah.
Britannica. Wow.
Interesting.
Well, I don't think we have to worry about it too much because at least we do promote both. We present the facts as well and be like, hey, like here's the facts.
No, totally. But
know.
like, I think like, for example, my video on Martin Luther King, they'll probably put a little thing
yeah.
that says,
Yeah, about the assassination.
he was assassinated by
JFK.
James Earl Ray, and that's the fact.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Obviously, they're
that
not going to like
doing
listen to our stuff and be like, oh no, you guys play fair. It's fine. If this is their new policy, they got to like unroll it on everybody. Everywhere.
Everywhere. Another claim that conspiracy theorists make is that there are no blast craters or any sign of dust scatter on the moon's surface.
So, like, if the
From where the lunar
spacecraft had
module-
landed, it should
Right.
like kind of like create like a little thing of air that like pushes everything. It's like because it's coming down with such force that it
Right.
would like move the ground beneath it, make
Yeah.
a crater.
Correct.
Interesting.
And that there was no exhaust flames coming from beneath the lunar module when it blasted off from the moon. People say it's a clear model being pulled up by a wire as well. So here's the official explanation for it. And that is that no crater should be expected. The 10,000-pound thrust descent propulsion system that the lunar module had was throttled very far down during the final landing. The lunar module was no longer quickly decelerating, so the descent engine only had to support the lander's own weight, which was lessened by the moon's gravity and by the near exhaustion of the descent propellants. Also, the Saturn V rocket that carried Apollo into space burnt liquid oxygen and kerosene, creating a dramatically fiery plume. The lunar lander, on the other hand, was propelled by a mixture of nitrogen tetroxide and Aerozine 50, which doesn't. Its exhaust gases are transparent, which to me, that makes sense. I mean, why would first of all, if you're putting astronauts in a lunar module, you would hope that it's not going to like crash into the surface of the moon and make a crater. Like, it would have to land pretty gently on the surface. But people say like there should at least be like indentations into the surface of the moon. But here's the thing with the moon is like, it's a layer of like hard rock, like right under the surface. Like, this isn't just like normal Earth ground. This is like a very, very rocky, undersurface. So it'd be very like the lunar module would have to literally like crash land in the moon. And even then it may not make big of a crater because of what the composition is. So this idea that, the lunar module was a model and, it didn't really land on the moon. This was a studio because of these reasons of, no flame and no crater. I don't know. It seems difficult to believe.
Yeah.
Because the science and the facts show that this, in fact, wouldn't have happened anyway, even with the real thing. Now, this one's interesting, which maybe I'll let you explain this one, but this is about the fake moon rock. So during
this is
their
interesting.
world tour following the Apollo 11 mission, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin handed out moon rocks as goodwill gestures to various science communities in 135 countries. One such specimen was given to the Prime Minister of Holland, in which it remained in his care until his death in 1988, at which point it was believed to be donated to the museum. And curators of the museum discovered that the moon rock in their possession was in fact a piece of petrified wood.
Ooh.
Why are they giving out fake moon rocks? Or a fake moon rock?
Dude, that's crazy. I love that part of
I
this.
want to know the explanation for this. Like,
Yeah, I do too.
I wonder what Buzz Aldrin says about this.
What if there was petrified wood on the moon, though?
Maybe. Whoa. That would
Like-
imply trees, though.
Yeah, well, maybe at one point there was, dude. I mean, there's a good chance
Maybe
of
that
that.
it was from the moon. Yeah. How do we know it wasn't a moon rock still from the moon? But
And they
it was
just thought it was a moon
petrified-
rock. Yeah.
What if we just got it wrong and that's the fact?
We've had wood up there. Trees or like
What?
structures for all we know. A lot of people believe, and we definitely want to do a whole podcast on this, but there's so many different theories about Mars, but a lot of people believe that before there was like thriving life on Earth, there was thriving life on Mars, and that they basically destroyed themselves with nuclear. There's a lot of evidence that there was nuclear.
Well, there's radiation.
Yeah,
that
there's radiation.
Like,
Yeah.
is unusual.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, for all we know, it could have been like a normal planet where there would be fossilized things like wood.
Yeah.
And maybe it looked a little different and looked more like a moon rock. Because I could identify
Yeah.
petrified wood easily. But
And the thing is that
Maybe it
there's
looked really
literally
different.
no like explanation for it. They don't know why it was given to them. All they know is it is a piece of petrified wood.
so NASA
So-
never was like, oh, sorry. We did
Yeah,
that.
no, we don't know. And I mean, they collected 380 kilograms, 838 pounds of moon rocks during
Yeah.
the 6 manned missions, which have been
pictures
looked
of
at by
moon rocks?
scientists all over the world, and they all agree that they did come from the moon. But there's no published accounts in peer-reviewed scientific journals that dispute this claim about the moon rocks. And the Apollo samples are easily distinguishable from both meteorites and Earth rocks in that they show a lack of hydrous alteration products.
I was just really confused. I typed in moon rocks on Google and a bunch of weed came up. And I was like really confused for a second. And then I remembered.
Yeah, I did that the other day.
Yeah, people take like
Nugs.
dried up nuggets of weed and then they roll it in like hash oil or something and then roll it in hash.
Mm-hmm.
And they're called moon rocks. I was looking at them. I'm like, whoa, moon rocks are so crazy looking. And then I realized it was a bunch of weed. Moon rocks from the moon.
Google
I clearly
moon
need
rocks.
to clarify what I'm talking about. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, they don't have the hydrous alteration.
So see this, like I can see right here, this looks like it could be petrified wood. That's an example of one that I think looks like could be. So there definitely could be some stuff that doesn't really look like petrified wood from down here, but maybe in space it petrifies a different way and looks a little
Maybe
different.
it is petrified.
It's terrified, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So they found a lot of moon rocks, and most of them are actually more than 200 million years older. than the oldest Earth rocks.
Oh, I found the one that is petrified wood. See, that's what I was saying. It
Yeah,
looks similar to that
it
other
does,
one I saw. This totally looks like petrified wood, though. Weird.
How did that
so
fuck
weird?
up happen?
That totally could be something that's just been there forever, dude. Part of a tree or something. We'll have to put a picture of that in too, of the rock.
Good. All right. So one other thing about the rocks.
More things about the rocks. Okay.
So some conspiracy theorists argue that Marshall Space Flight Center director Werner von Braun's trip to Antarctica in 1967, which was about 2 years before the Apollo 11 launch, was actually a mission to gather lunar meteorites to be used as fake moon rocks.
Interesting.
That's a theory. There's no proof to that.
Okay.
But just an interesting point.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Here's kind of one of the other things that gets me about this whole thing. We could literally end this whole moon landing conspiracy hoax controversy today if they showed us pictures of equipment left behind.
Yes.
Using our advanced telescopes and technology, which is available to us, like the Hubble telescope.
Yeah, why don't we have
There
that?
is equipment left behind on the moon's surface that you would think would be able to like photograph or show us today to
They
prove
should be
that they
able
were
to.
there.
Yeah.
But they say
They're getting
can't.
pictures of Jupiter now.
They say they can't see something that small on the surface. They said that
what about one of the rovers? They still send like rovers to the moon, don't they?
No, we don't have a rover on the moon.
They don't send anything to the
No,
moon?
nothing's on the moon. No, nothing's actively on the moon.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
We're not collecting
No,
anything?
we're roving on Mars, but not on the moon right now.
Wow. That's disappointing. You'd think they'd be we barely know anything about it.
I know, and just like we can literally image anything on this planet. We can see islands, we can see anomalies at the bottom of the ocean, but we can't see junk on the moon. Like, it's pretty wild with any type of technology, whether it's a telescope or not, because they're saying that in order for the telescopes or like Hubble to see it, it's got to be at least as large as a house to see it. Which I'm like, really? Hubble can see fucking planets and other solar systems.
I don't know. I really can't speak on that. I don't know much about the telescopes and what they can see, but I'm just like kind of mind blown that they don't have anything on the moon. Like, why don't they send something up there just to take pictures? Like, I just don't get that.
I know.
Come on, I know they can afford that.
I don't know. It is bizarre. It really is.
That is so weird. And they probably don't do it because then people would ask for pictures of like what we've left behind and stuff, or more pictures of the moon.
Right?
Oh, it's so
Why
weird.
don't we have like a probe like orbiting
Why
it
have we not
24/7, photographing it or
base yet?
live streaming it? Yeah, exactly.
For real though, why don't we have a base on the moon? If US
Why
was
doesn't
the
NASA
first
have
one to
a
get
base
there,
on
why
it?
wouldn't they be like, oh, we're going to make a base?
Seems like a good idea unless there is.
Because then that allows you to travel further into space.
Right.
Because you can launch from the moon and go further out.
So that's the whole thing with the secret space program, is that there already is a lunar operations center on the moon.
People think
it's secret though. Yes, it's secret and kept. It's not. We don't know about it for a reason.
Right. It's not public. But why wouldn't they publicly have a space
Because
on the moon?
We're getting into alien realm, because literally extraterrestrials are fucking there, and they are using this lunar operations center on the moon.
According to theories. You don't know that.
No, I know. I'm just saying that. According to whistleblowers and insiders that have work in this field, William Tompkins, I could name a bunch, but have all said that there is an active operation going on. So everything kind of ties back into disclosure of extraterrestrial life and the proof of aliens. It really all comes back to that for why we haven't gone back or not currently observing it officially. Which I agree. I 100% agree with you. Like, we have ISS like orbiting Earth all the time. Like, why don't we have anything orbiting the moon like the same way? Why don't we have astronauts just orbiting around the moon? I guess it's way farther, so it's definitely more expensive. But come on, for real.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's bizarre. We'll have some more alien discussion here in a sec, but one of the other claims I wanted to just briefly mention is about Stanley Kubrick. who has been accused of having produced much of the footage for the Apollo 11 and 12 mission, presumably because he had just directed 2001 A Space Odyssey, which is partly set on the moon and featured advanced special effects. It has been claimed that when 2001 was in post-production in early 1998 or 1968, NASA secretly approached Kubrick to direct the first 3 moon landings. The launch and splashdown would be real, but the spacecraft would stay in Earth orbit and fake footage broadcast as quote-unquote live from the moon, which no evidence was offered for this theory. It overlooks many facts. The 2001 was released before the first Apollo landing, and Kubrick's depiction of the moon's surface differs greatly from its appearance in Apollo video film and photography. So this is a pretty big stretch. But, if you're going to point your finger at, anybody that might be able to pull off setting up, a fake moon landing, it would have been Stanley Kubrick at the time. So
I guess. I don't know. There's no evidence for that.
So what is NASA's response to the conspiracy theories? What does NASA think about this? So actually in June 1977, NASA issued a fact sheet responding to recent claims that the Apollo moon landings had been hoaxed, which they put this link out there to go check out this fact sheet that they released, but it is not accessible anymore. I couldn't get to it. I can't find it. It just doesn't work.
Fact sheet?
There's a fact sheet, but it's gone. It's not available.
Weird.
And I'm like, really, NASA, your website, you just haven't updated your site, or what's going on? The link changed, but you can't see the fact sheet, which supposedly debunks all of these different claims that they made. But basically, NASA refers to the rocks and particles that they collected from the moon as being evidence of the program's legitimacy, as they claim that these rocks could not have been formed under conditions on Earth. So they're basically like, we got space rocks, we can prove it, so you can't say we didn't go to the moon.
Which I think they probably did.
Right.
So,
which NASA also notes that all operations and phases of the Apollo program were closely followed and under scrutiny of the news media from liftoff to splashdown, which is also true. So here's another perspective we're going to take a look at, and this is what I've been most excited about because this has to do with otherworldly visitors. So maybe faking the moon landing isn't the conspiracy, and it's what really happened when we got there. That is the real conspiracy here. So maybe we did land on the moon, but they are lying about what they actually found when they got there, and or keeping additional photo video evidence from us, which tells us the real story about what the astronauts saw when they got there. And because of this, they were forced to fake some of the photos video when they got home before releasing it to the public. So the photographs that we were showing and all of that, and we were talking about. Here is some evidence for this theory and where it came from. So first off, according to Bob Dean, who was a United States Army Command Sergeant Major who also served as Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe of NATO as an intelligence analyst, he says more footage exists and has been erased and hidden all these years, which we have never been told about. So a high-ranking U.S. military official says, literally, "Ladies and gentlemen, my government, NASA, which many of us in the United States say stands for never a straight answer, proceeded to erase 40 rolls of film of the Apollo program, the flight to the moon, the flight around the moon, the landings on the moon, the walking guys here and there. They erased, for Christ's sake, 40 rolls of film of those events."
Why would they erase anything from the moon? We had too much space on it. We didn't have enough space on our hard drive. We had to get rid of some shit. What?
He's saying that there's evidence of something that they don't want us to see on 40 rolls of film.
No, I get it.
So they destroyed it.
Well, obviously, that's what they mean. But why would they just do that? Why would they just destroy their stuff?
I don't think they destroyed it.
Just for fun? So I think this guy's onto some shit.
Could be. He said, we're talking about several thousand individual frames that were taken that the so-called authorities determined that you did not have a right to see. Oh, they were disruptive, socially unacceptable, politically unacceptable. I've become furious. I'm a retired command sergeant major. I was never famous for having a lot of patience. Interesting. So that's just one perspective. But this is where this whole theory, which I probably most closely align with and believe, and it really comes from our man, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yo, the homie.
Yes. Shout out to Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project and the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSETI. So if you don't know who Dr. Greer is, Dr. Greer was responsible for bringing forth high-level military whistleblowers from all ranks to testify about the UFO extraterrestrial phenomenon. And this is on YouTube at it's a national press conference that he did back in the early 90s, I think, where they actually talked about the UFO extraterrestrial phenomenon, like on TV. He's also had high-level meetings within the Pentagon about this issue, which was verified by Apollo 14 astronaut and the sixth man to walk on the moon, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, in Dr. Greer's film Serious Disclosure, which, again, definitely got to see that if you haven't. It'll really, really blow your mind about all of this. But Edgar Mitchell is one of multiple NASA astronauts who have made some eye-opening comments about the extraterrestrial presence. He has said that, yes, there have been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We are not alone in the universe. They have been coming here for a long time. I happen to be privileged enough to be in on the fact that we have been visited on this planet and the UFO phenomenon is real. Again, guys, this is a NASA Apollo 14 astronaut and a person that actually walked on the moon, saying that literally aliens are here. So
that's crazy.
You can take what you want from that and say, oh, this guy's nuts, doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's just a fool, and say aliens don't exist. Or you can think, holy shit,
what if he's right?
Maybe he's fucking right. Maybe this is true. And not only that, here's some interesting words from Dr. Greer about Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, actually. So Dr. Greer, in a blog post a couple years ago, said that close friends and very close family members of both Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin have separately told me that indeed there were numerous large UFOs around the crater where the lunar module landed, and that these were seen by both Armstrong and Aldrin. I have also spoken to military officers that have seen the footage of this event, but it has never been made public. One close family member, Buzz Aldrin, told me it is not my place to out Buzz on this. Someday, if he can speak out about it, he will. Neil Armstrong became somewhat of a recluse after the moon landing and rarely spoke of the historic event.
Why wouldn't you?
Seriously, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But his friends and family have told me that this is because he was a man of such integrity that he simply did not want to be put in a position to lie to the public about such a momentous encounter. How tragic that our heroes have been placed in this untenable situation. When we were organizing the Disclosure Project a few years ago, I asked one of Neil Armstrong's friends if Armstrong would come to Washington to brief members of Congress at the 1997 congressional briefing we organized in April of that year. I was told that Armstrong wished he could, but that if he spoke about it, what really happened during the moon landing, that Neil Armstrong, his wife, and his children would all be killed. It was put to me this bluntly. So if this is in fact true and his source is credible and this is in fact what Neil Armstrong believes, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty eye-opening and honestly, like, makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Because they literally, like, multiple people have corroborated this, that when they landed on the moon, the lunar module landed on the moon, the crater in which they landed, the big area in which they landed, on the outer edge, there was UFOs lining the crater. There was multiple craft lining the crater.
Wow.
Now, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong never have talked about this or admitted this or anything like that, but you would think that if this was the case, that they would have been like, you guys cannot speak about this.
Yeah.
Which would also make sense as to why this footage has been removed and never released to us. And we've seen very, like, small bits of it.
Yeah, it's really weird.
If they filmed the whole moon landing, where's the full, like...
I know, like, let's see the
full
whole thing. Come on.
Pretty interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a photo of what looks like a disc flying behind one of the astronauts, which, I don't know. I'm fairly convinced that this is what happened, that there were somebody else there already when they arrived. And therefore, they have had to keep hush about all this. And Buzz Aldrin has admitted that he believes there is an extraterrestrial presence already going on. So a number of astronauts actually believe this.
That's crazy. Why? I mean, they wouldn't like make it up, you know?
No, they wouldn't make it up. Why? But why? Why? You're an astronaut. Why? I wouldn't do that.
No, obviously not.
But
No,
it
that's
seems
really
like they're
weird.
scared. They're
They
scared
are.
to talk about it. You would think
Yeah.
like this is like probably one of the greatest events to ever happen in
No, like
human
100%
history. Like,
something's going on. Like, absolutely.
why not talk about this? So the other source I mentioned was also a NASA employee named Ken Johnson. Johnson was a Boeing engineer and former fighter jock and test pilot for Grumman Aerospace. He was also a Marine and F-4 pilot, as well as a NASA employee, and he worked as the chief lunar module test pilot at the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston. And according to James Oberg, a U.S. space journalist, UFO skeptic, and space historian, Johnson seems to be a sweet human being who did honorable service to his country in the military and in the Apollo program. But in this documentary, which I've featured in one of my videos on my channel, actually, about astronauts that believe there's aliens here, he reveals that while Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, "They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us." So this is just yet another, like, why would these people lie about these things that are being said just to like say that there's aliens or that there's UFOs? Like, why would, I mean, is it possible that they could? Yes, but does it seem likely? No, it just doesn't seem likely. Why would they risk their, reputation and credibility and all these different things in order to lie about there being UFOs parked at the crater and they're watching us? Like, why? That'd be terrifying. I'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we're here and there's literally like these craft watching us. Another source for the story comes from Timothy Good, who's one of the world's leading UFO researchers, who's lectured at university schools and many other organizations. And he says that a former member of MI6 revealed her conversation with Neil Armstrong at a NASA conference when he confirmed there were other spacecraft on the moon when Apollo 11 landed in 1969. Armstrong also confirmed the CIA was behind the cover-up. Interesting. Well, this would be a
would not
national
be
security
shocked.
threat. I mean, shit.
The Central Intelligence Agency is just like a giant bullshit factory.
They have been, they're probably involved in every cover-up known to man.
Yeah. And they killed JFK. What? Anyway.
So if they can do that, why not
Yeah.
cover up, the presence of, UFOs when the lunar module lands,
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. That's crazy, dude.
So we'll leave you guys with that thought of UFOs on the critters. So multiple people corroborating this story that when the Apollo 11 astronauts landed on the moon, they were not alone.
That's wild.
And, for us and for me personally, leads me to believe that there is a lot of footage and evidence of this happening that has literally been, still classified, top secret, probably will never see the light of day.
Of course there is, yeah.
Or maybe it's even been destroyed. Who knows? But it seems to me that like we did go to the moon. I don't think that the whole thing was hoax. I don't think that this was all faked. I just really don't. I think there's too much evidence to prove that we did go to the moon.
I just think we're not getting the full story.
Right.
Like
We're
there's
absolutely
like
not.
the truth somewhere in between all of this stuff,
Absolutely. Which doesn't mean that maybe because of the way certain footage turned out or photos turned out, they had to edit or maybe even refilm a scene or something in a studio or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they did do that. Maybe they had to do that. Maybe that's why some of the like hopping around on the moon looks weird because
Yeah.
they did have to like do a little bit in a studio.
Or
but,
like why you can see wires or
so I think there's just some big mixture of like fuckery here. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's just who really knows the truth,
yeah. No one.
But I know we're not getting the full story.
No.
And you know that.
I know that for
So
sure.
what do you guys think? What do you guys think happened with this? Do you believe the Apollo moon landings was just a giant hoax? Or do you think that all of it is true according to NASA? Or do you think there's just a lot of shit we're not being told and lied about and covered up?
Yeah, let us know your thoughts for sure. If you don't believe we went to the moon, I'd love to. I totally respect your
if
opinion.
there's
I'd
other
love to know
evidence
why.
that we didn't get,
There probably is. So
definitely let us
That's
know. Definitely let us know, guys. And thank you for joining us for another episode. Again, we'll do a Secret Space Program episode in the future. Hopefully we can get some cool, like maybe we can get Dr. Stephen Greer on the show, and
I think we
down
can.
the road.
We actually have his contact information because we were gonna work with. I was gonna collab with him on my channel possibly, but then we just moved and everything was crazy. But eventually, I think we could.
Yes, and if you haven't seen his documentaries, Serious Disclosure and Unacknowledged,
Go
highly
watch
recommend it. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
So well done.
It's on YouTube, so definitely check it out. But thank you guys for joining us for episode number 30 about the NASA moon landing conspiracy theories. It's been real. It's been fun.
It's been real
And
fun.
Yeah, we will
And we'll see you guys next time.